When Trump's first buddy, Elon Musk, collides with Trump's old buddy, Steve Bannon, things get messy. Steve Bannon, a fierce critic of the Chinese Communist Party, sees China as America's top adversary. Musk deep business ties to China? Certainly a red flag for Bannon. It's a clash of egos, power, and ideas you won't want to miss. Welcome to another episode of China in the News. Today, we're diving into the drama behind this high stakes feud between Steve Bannon and Elon Musk. It's always to have you here, Doug, to break it down for us.
It's so great to be with you, Christine. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm looking forward to another exciting one about the fight between Bannon and Musk. So let's go.
Let's dive into the core issue. How would you describe the difference between Bannon's nationalism and Musk's focus on free market innovation?
Well, so this is really a great question, and it's a really important question for where our society and economy is going. I mean, Bannon was Trump's guy when the MAGA movement emerged in 2016, and this was really, in some ways, I don't want to call it a working class movement, but it was a movement that was very clearly tied to how do we get America around the idea of a populist nationalism. And, like we can say that China stole all of our jobs and, people are crossing the border from Mexico and stealing jobs. And Bannon really became that acolyte, like that person who was really, really driving that populist movement. Musk is a very different category. I mean, you and I have talked about this before, but I think Musk is just like, this guy doesn't care about populism. This guy cares about his pocketbook, and he cares about, how much money he's making. And he cares about the fact that, wow, okay, Donald Trump is important and he's leading a nationalist movement. And so I need to get a seat at the table. But this has nothing to do with real, true sort of Bannon-esque MAGA nationalism. And so the interesting thing is, like, Musk has a seat at the table because he knows that Trump can have a big impact on things like SpaceX contracts with NASA and the U.S.-China policy that's going to influence Tesla tremendously. That's all he cares about. He cares about his pocketbook, and he cares about what is going to make Elon Musk money. Steve Bannon, is a different category. This guy really does, I think, believe in the MAGA nationalist issues. And so now we're seeing the real fight come to the table, right? And so, like, you have this guy who's super powerful, Elon Musk, who paid $250 million to get Donald Trump elected, and probably just did so that he could, come out well in the policies that Donald Trump can set in motion. But Steve Bannon, he cares about MAGA. And so I just think we are seeing, like, the fight go down right now. And I think it's really interesting.
Yes, their feud recently heated up over H1B visa issues, with Elon Musk relying on global talent for his ventures like SpaceX and Tesla, and Steve Bannon pushing to limit immigration. Does this highlight the growing divide within Trump's inner circle? One camp focus on global business, the other on nationalist priorities. For those unfamiliar, the H1B program allows U.S. employers to hire foreign workers in specialized fields, typically in technology. So I work in tech, and many of my friends are H1B visa holders, and they're super talented.
So again, this is a really interesting moment for this debate, because while both Bannon and Musk claim to advocate for free speech, their approaches are different, right? And so, Musk, especially, acquiring Twitter, now X, has positioned himself as a defender of free speech and, the ability to speak out, and emphasizing less content moderation and more open dialogue on the platform. But his approach also includes some controversial decisions like suspending accounts that he views as, against the platform's ideas or terms, or maybe just against his political ideas, right? But Bannon, on the other hand, is like often criticized big tech companies for censoring conservative viewpoints and limiting free speech. But his perspective is tied much more to the broader ideological stance against what he sees the elite control of public discourse is. And so, so again, you have like sort of the Musk, this guy, I can't remember how much money he paid. You probably remember, Christine, but like he paid a lot of money for Twitter, like 60 billion or
44 billion.
5 billion. But yeah. So he paid a lot of money to have this platform in which he can say whatever he wants and be followed. Bannon is just a populist ideologue who, got together with Donald Trump and led a movement called Make America Great Again. And so while both advocate for free speech, their fights often seem, like they have different underlying motivations and concerns. Musk tends to focus on tech platform governance, and Bannon is much more concerned with the political and ideological aspects of the power structure. And so again, this is a really interesting debate because I think Musk is very self-interested here. And, Bannon might be self-interested too, but he's really interested in the MAGA movement. And so this Make America Great Again movement, which is really, I think I've said this to you before, but I think it's fundamentally a racist movement, one that has targeted Chinese and Hispanics as like stealing American jobs, all under the auspice of, neoclassical economic theory, which came into power in, 1980, which, invited corporations to go abroad and make money for shareholder value. And so it's a really interesting moment to really think this through.
Well, Steve Bannon hates Elon Musk so much, he said, I swear I will kick him out before Donald Trump is sworn in, and he won't have a blue pass with full access to the White House. Do you think Bannon can pull this off?
It's an interesting question. And again, I think the MAGA movement is very powerful, right? Like it got Donald Trump elected for a second time. And the real logic here is that, okay, so we can be the Republican Party and go through a process of creating a tax policy that favors, we have the lowest corporate taxes in this country since 1939. And, like basically we've created a process that really emphasizes shareholder value for corporations and for their shareholders, right? And, we've also created a process of globalization in which a lot of the jobs that were the American manufacturing jobs that this country was built on in the 20th century are gone. They're in China. And so Bannon and Trump have sort of, captured that mindset and really created this idea that we need to make America great again, and tariffs therefore will bring jobs back. And and you and I have discussed this before, like this is just BS. Like that's not how it's going to work. Like it's very complex to build complex manufacturing supply chains. And so on the one hand, there is the Bannon side of the thing, and then there's the Musk side of the thing that is just like, this guy is just a self-interested richest guy in the world. Like he doesn't care about American jobs. He doesn't care about MAGA. He just cares about having a seat at the table with Donald Trump so that he can get contracts for SpaceX and so that he can influence public policy around, making sure that Tesla is protected because Tesla in China is very important for him.
Speaking of rich guys, David Sachs, one of his close friend, Elon Musk's close friend, is a venture capitalist and an early executives at PayPal. He's now being put in charge of the AI and crypto regulations in the new administration. Well, Steve Bannon often criticized that tech lacks oversight. So do you think this adds weight to his criticism, especially when it comes to emerging technologies like AI?
Well, I mean, this is a really interesting moment because, we can talk about we have X over here and we have Tesla over here, but the worlds of high tech all sort of flow together here, right? So we have social media and X, we have AI technology and the use of Tesla vehicles, and like there's a lot of players here who, which include Elon Musk. And so like yes, there's the David Sachs issue, and there's but but also remember that JD Vance, like he got a lot of his post Yale Law School world through Thielen. And so like there's a lot of money that's flowing here in the AI space and the high tech space. And so, you know, I just think it's an interesting moment for us to think about this, but like they're all in the same space. Elon Musk is just as much influencing that space and also just as much at risk. And so, they all want to be have a seat at the table with Donald Trump. And I think Donald Trump wants wants to be famous and wants to come down as the president who supported all these guys. And so, yeah.
Well, let's talk about why we're covering this in China in the news. Elon Musk Global Ventures really place him at the center of geopolitical dynamics, whether it's Tesla's operation in China, Starlink's role in Ukraine, or his growing involvement in European politics. His actions have global implications. So, what's motivating Musk to develop his increasing political presence in Europe? And how might that shift both his companies and his global standing? Do you think this strategic move secures his influence, or is it just response to geopolitical pressure?
Well, I mean, I think someone like Elon Musk is motivated by two things. One is money, and two is his ego. He wants to make as much money as possible, and he's already the richest person in the world, but he wants to be a trillionaire, and he will be soon. But these kinds of people, this is, I think, maybe why there's a synergy between him and Donald Trump, is because, people like this have egos where they just want to be viewed as the most important people in the world. And so, I don't think that there's any aspect of them trying to do good for the world or trying to create a social media platform where everybody can talk and have political debates. Or, maybe you could make the case that Elon Musk had this idea because he wanted to create electric vehicles that would help the environment and, reduce the carbon footprint in the world. And, maybe this idea of like him wanting to create SpaceX and, I don't know, build a colony on Mars. I don't know. But my guess is that he and Donald Trump share in common that they're business people who care a lot about making a lot of money, and they have huge egos, and they care a lot about being the most important people in history. And that's what I think is really driving this. So I don't think it has much to do with, sort of altruistic ideas about creating different carbon footprints in Europe or different social media platforms that are helping the world have better dialogue. I think these guys are just care about money and ego.
You're right. But on the flip side, Elon Musk's approach to international relations seems to be pretty pragmatic, even though it's controversial. So, how might this contrast with Bannon's more isolationist, nationalistic tendency, particularly his skepticism toward global institutions and multinational companies?
Well, but here again, I think that yes, I think there is a very pragmatic side to what he does. Um, but like the reason he's in China is not again just to reduce the carbon footprint of China in the world, or I mean he's there. Tesla's there to benefit from the manufacturing supply chain in China, right? Like these are business decisions. And so again, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but like I just think that again, he and Donald Trump share something in common. So you have like the hotel casino guy and then like the Tesla SpaceX guy. But these people care about making money, and they care about, um, their egos as being very important people in the world. And so here again, I think that the thing that's happening with Elon Musk in places like China, is that they're really benefiting tremendously from the complex manufacturing supply chain in China that you and I have studied for a long time, and he needs to be there. And so that leads him to sort of elevate himself to nation state Musk instead of just, friend of the president Musk. And, he needs to influence what US China relations are because he needs China. And so I think that's, kind of core to what's going on.
Supreme Court just upheld the law to ban TikTok. There is a speculation that Chinese government would support Elon Musk owning TikTok. Given his business ties and his advocacy for free speech, do you think this move actually makes sense? And would this be just a concession to an authoritarian regime?
So, I mean, you and I have talked about TikTok before, and so I'll just recite a little bit of how I feel about this. I think that this is just a completely irresponsible approach to U.S. China trade relations and U.S. China policy by the U.S. government. I think that there are people who have made decisions that are not responsible global capitalism. I think they've made decisions based on rumors and ideas about what TikTok might be doing with the Chinese government. But as you know better than I do, ByteDance as a company was very proactive in creating a dynamic in which, or a structure in which it was clear that ByteDance, 60% foreign owned as a company, as a company, and it's, created a situation in which TikTok doesn't even exist in China. Douyin does, its sister company, but TikTok doesn't. And, the Cayman Islands, had founding and headquarters. I mean, so I think there's a lot here that just is evidence that ByteDance has been a responsible company. And if the United States was going to be a responsible partner with China, we would have thought through those issues, right? But as you know, Covington decided to just focus on free speech and just not really deal with the complexities of the engagement. And so the Supreme Court came down and upheld the DC Circuit's position, and I think it's wrong. I think it's bad. I think it's bad for U.S. politics. I think it's bad for U.S. China relations. But if then an outcome, to get to your question, sorry for the long-winded answer, but to get to your question is, okay, should Elon Musk own TikTok? To me, it's just a very cynical outcome to what, so again, here's the richest guy in the world who already owns X, formerly Twitter, and now he's going to own TikTok. And, I'd rather have multiple voices and multiple owners and multiple, but that's not my call. But it may be the case that this is the outcome that's going to come down, is that, Elon Musk may end up, you know, being being the purchaser of TikTok from ByteDance, and I would rather have multiple voices in the space. But
I agree with you. In fact, when TikTok was getting banned, everyone expected a lot of creators would go to Instagram Reel or YouTube Shorts. Surprisingly, they all went to 小红书, which direct translation is Little Red Book. It's a really popular app in China that's also available in US app stores. And so, fun fact, I learned yesterday Elon Musk's mother is actually very active on 小红书, and she has 900 followers. She was a self-appointed ambassador for the Tesla Gigafactory. So she took pictures there and she started out there. And I ask a lot of my Chinese friends, why do people idolize her? She's not that well loved. She's very controversial in US. Turned out it's because she raised 3 billionaire children. And Chinese people idolize her and want to know her, it's just surprising. So I was trying to find out why people were so resistant to go to Instagram or YouTube. And then I found out she may be one of the contributing factors to TikTok creators going to 小红书.
that is so interesting. I did not know that that piece of data. But I mean, as I'm sure you've been getting, I'm on X and I'm on Blue Sky, and I keep getting these outreaches from Xiaohongshu, And I'm like, okay, all right, all right. So maybe this is a really interesting moment for, a Chinese-based social media company to, supplant what TikTok is doing. And so I don't
But I
know.
gotta say this, isn't this whack-a-mole? We just banned a Chinese company's app, TikTok, and Xiaohongshu is more Chinese owned than TikTok US. And I'm just finding that US government is now going to play whack-a-mole.
Well, but we're gonna play whack-a-mole and we're gonna lose. But that's to me, Christine, that's the lesson here. Yeah, okay, so you can make up some data and, not even have evidence for it and get it passed through Congress, and the courts, the DC Circuit and the Supreme Court will uphold the ban even though there's no evidence for and, the DC Circuit said this very clearly and the Supreme Court has affirmed it. There is no evidence about this covert action. It's just made up shit. And so, like, the key thing is we're going to do this, but you can whack them all you want, but there are other platforms, right? And Xiaohongshu is another platform. And it may be the case that, the 170 million young people who are on TikTok, they may just go to Xiaohongshu. And I think serves us right.
It's funny, TikTokers are now posting videos saying goodbye to their Chinese spies on TikTok before they migrating. And it's actually just I think many of the TikTokers are well aware of the privacy issues and data security issues. And I think this is a protest to US government and just basically being showing their irreverence. And there's actually a lot of memes about saying goodbye to their Chinese spy friends.
I agree. I mean, I think, there is a big, just like you guys do whatever you want. You don't control us because we have social media and whether it's TikTok or maybe we need to deal with the language issues, but we'll figure out Xiaohongshu. We're going to do that. And
Well, back to the social media. So, media plays a huge role in shaping public perceptions of both Steve Bannon and Elon Musk. Steve Bannon has his own podcast. And like you said, Elon Musk owns Twitter/X as a megaphone. I still call it Twitter. Who do you think it's more effective at controlling their own narrative and why?
well, so I love the question, Christine. And here I'm I'm a little bit sad because I don't share the politics of the Bannon side of the house. I'm so cynical about Elon Musk. I just think he's, a rich guy, richest guy in the world, and wants to be richer and richer and wants to be the most influential person in the world. And as you and I have discussed, like, I don't agree with what Trump and Bannon have done to sort of create this movement, which, racistly claims that Chinese people and Hispanic people are stealing your jobs. But I actually find, ironically, and I hate to agree with Steve Bannon, but like I find him more consistent. Like I find him, like he actually has an idea that is not tied to how much money can he make and how powerful am I, but is really about, and I think it's a misguided idea, but it's really about the American working class. And, they've like championed this movement. And so, I don't want to be in either of their camps, but I find Steve Bannon more consistent and less self-interested. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it's an awkward moment to be thinking about these issues.
Yeah. Um, do you think their feud is just media spectacle, or is that a deeper division that we should really be paying attention to?
Well, it's a great question, Christine, because I'm very curious. Um, as we see this battle between the big egos going on, and there are three big egos here, not just two. There's Bannon and Musk, but there's also Donald Trump, who's very nervous about Elon Musk, you know, being called the president in waiting or the president behind the desk. And of course, Donald Trump has said like he can't be president. He's not even American and American born. But um, I think it really is an interesting moment to really kind of think through, where Donald Trump is going to lean. And I think he's threatened by Elon Musk and how powerful Elon Musk is. But my guess is that MAGA is going to be the core of this. Right. And so, like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and, they've sort of, trampled on MAGA's ideas because of the H1B visa issue. But Bannon, I think, is like, he's kind of core Trump. And so my guess is that if I had to pick who was going to win this debate, Donald Trump got elected. He got Elon Musk's 250 million to help him get elected. He's president. And the MAGA movement, I think, is really his legacy. And sadly, because I just think the MAGA movement is terrible for America. But my guess is that if I had to pick who was going to win in the Musk versus Bannon, debate or ideas behind Donald Trump, it's going to be Bannon.
Interesting. Well, with the inauguration coming on January 20th, a lot of the tech bosses were invited to inauguration. Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bezos, TikTok CEO, Google CEO, and Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO. One name, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, declined. And his reason is, well, he's going to be on the road celebrating Lunar New Year with his employees and families and visiting factories. What do you think? You and I just chatted before the recording.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of Jensen Huang, and I think NVIDIA is like an incredibly important, technologically innovative company. But, as you and I were discussing before our call, like, if you're just going to be out celebrating Lunar New Year with somebody, like, you can make time. And so, like, there's a very clear statement here. And, I think the statement is like, I'm not, I'm not paying $1 million for the inauguration table, and I'm not doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to be away with family. Sorry, I can't make it. And so I think it's an awesome statement. And it wasn't overtly crazy, big overstatement, but I think it's a statement. It's a statement saying, like, you know what, guys, we got this. And NVIDIA is a really, really interesting, innovative company, right? And so as we think about like what's happening with the semiconductor chip manufacturing industry and like all of the AI and data that go into that, like, I think NVIDIA is really important. And so,
But he does need to befriend Trump administration because of the AI chip restriction, export restriction to China. So he did put out a statement. I'll look forward to congratulating the Trump administration when they take office.
but
So he does have to work with them.
he's got a balance, but he's not going cap in hand and saying, I'll be there. And so I think he's being very smart politically and business wise, but I just don't think he's, rolling over and saying like, okay, whatever you need, Donald. And so I just think
And they
it's
give
a
$1 million
balance. I'm
to the
impressed.
inauguration party.
Right.
The number of tech bosses who gave $1 million just kind
I
of
just think it's
just
so
broke my
depressing.
heart.
Me
It
too.
broke my heart.
Broke my heart too. I'm with you. It's so depressing. And so, but he's not one of them. And so,
I admire him. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you for shedding lights on the fascinating and complex sibling rivalry. It's clear the clash between Steve Bannon and Elon Musk isn't just two personalities, but really represents much larger issues in our society. To, Doug, any final thoughts?
well, Christine, as always, I just am always so thankful for conversations with you. But just to go back to some of the things that have driven a lot of our conversations over the last couple of times talking, this is a really, really important moment for U.S.-China relations. It's also a really important moment for the U.S. And so I think us just sort of wading through, like, what do we think about what's happening in the technology space, in the U.S.-China relations space, in the leadership space. I'm so thankful for it. And, like, there are wild players here from President-elect Trump to Elon Musk to Steve Bannon. And so I just think like it's really important to be talking about this. Thank you for the conversation.
Well, thank you, Doug. To our viewers, I love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Drop your comments below and do not forget to subscribe for more discussions like this. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.